All right, and we are live. We are back and at it again here live on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube's. Back from vacation here with Dennis and Matt for another great Monday episode. How you guys doing today? How were your weekends?
I had a great weekend. I'm dragging ass a little bit today, if I'm being perfectly honest. Could have used a couple more hours of sleep, but we'll get through it.
That was me probably when I hit my weekend on Friday. I was so tired on Friday afternoon. I'm like, I want to watch some baseball, finally some live sports. And 2 hours later, I woke up and I had passed out on the couch. The cat's like curled up with me. Fortunately, I was watching the Braves and the Mets, and it was still 0-0, so I didn't miss a lot of the action.
Yeah, I'm glad baseball's back. I've been loving it. It sucks that the Indians game got postponed tonight. I was going to throw that up in the background here.
Was that for weather?
Yeah, for weather. Yeah, a lot of people are freaking out because the White Sox manager is not feeling well, and he went home. But no, it got canceled for weather. I'm, hopefully optimistic this thing's going to keep going. Speaking of COVID-19, we were just talking. I do want to throw this out there. I've seen a lot of people talking about it. If you own a player that tests positive for COVID-19, do not just trade them because they end up on the COVID-19 list. It's NFL's way of putting players on there so that they can do stuff like don't freak out. We were just talking about
they're not out for the season.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson, Keyshawn Vaughn are two of the guys. Dennis said Justin Jefferson did. I know Keyshawn Vaughn did as well. They're not going to be out for the season. Hopefully, it's a 2-week thing, and they're going to be fine coming back. So don't.
But if your league mate wants to panic and trade you Justin Jefferson because he's gone for the year, you can take that trade.
Yeah, absolutely. You can take advantage of other people, but if you're listening, don't do that. But some big news dropped. Was that yesterday?
Saturday.
That Jamal Adams got traded from the Jets to the Seahawks. We obviously don't do a lot of IDP talk here, but I think it's just a fascinating NFL trade to begin with. What are your guys' thoughts on that trade with the Jets and Seahawks?
Well, if the Jets play their cards right, they'll have a competent head coach by the time they use those 2 first-round draft picks. McDougald is an all-right player. He's no Jamal Adams. He's going to slide right in Adams' starting spot for New York. Interestingly enough, I am in transportation, and Lev Bell had come home to visit his mother and was in the back seat of the car I was driving to take him to his mother's house when McDougald called him to tell him about the trade. Lev was like, "Hey, Brad," and McDougald was like, "Hey, teammate." And Bell was like, "What?" And it turns out McDougald's from Central Ohio as well, and they played high school football here at the same time, and so they know each other going way back. It was exciting for me. It was tough for me not to pull over and say, "Hey, I got to tweet everybody I know and text them that this just happened. Maybe I can be first." No, but it was cool. Mr. Bell was very nice.
Voice to text option.
Yeah. Mr. Bell was very nice. It was exciting to hear. There was a little tit for tat between Jamal and Lev. It is what it is. It gets blown up in the era of social media. So from an IDP standpoint, I don't think it affects Jamal Adams' status. One of the first things I did was reach out to Jordan Raines from the IDP 411 Dynasty Nerds writer and the founder of the IDP 123 scoring system, and asked because he said something about this, Jamal Adams, the DB1, whatnot, and I'm like, well, really, what does this do for him from an IDP scoring standpoint? And Jordan was like, well, he just scores the same amount of points on a winning team now, which is good for him. I'm like, all right, that's what I thought. It didn't seem to me, it wasn't like he's going to go from scoring 200 points to 250 points in an IDP setting. He's just going to still score the same amount of points on a team that has a chance to likely make the playoffs. And we've seen Seattle can't draft a first-round pick to save their life, so it was probably a good move for them too.
Did that hurt as a Rashad Penny truther?
It did, man. It did.
No, I was going to say it's a good thing that they traded those 2 first-round picks away because we know they're not going to draft running backs in the next 2 years. They're set now on defense and they can kind of focus forward.
Well, I think the important thing is if you have a personality conflict between head coach Adam Gase and one of the best young safeties in football, you 10 times out of 10 have to choose Adam Gase, right? I mean, who else can give that kind of wide-eyed introductory press conference experience?
Well, there's I don't have anything to add to that.
Oh man, the Jets unintentionally tanking for treasure.
Yeah, that'll be interesting if they end up with the first pick and what they do with Sam Darnold. But as you guys can see scrolling across the bottom there, we are talking about the Jets and the Dolphins. The Jets actually had a pretty good back half of the season last year. Ended up finishing 7-9 after Darnold was out for a little bit with mono, and Dennis just kind of mentioned it there as he was talking about the Adams trade. What do you guys think on Adam Gase being back next season?
Back where? It's going to take a hell of a coaching job for him to be back in New York, I think. I feel like he's used up the 9 lives he gained from carrying Peyton Manning's clipboard.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it seemed like he was on a super hot seat at the end of last year. So, short of the Jets making the playoffs, it's kind of hard to see him coming back. But you never know. The Jets seem to be watching what Washington's been going through and said, hold my beer when they traded Jamal Adams. So they aren't exactly the greatest run franchise. I can't remember who the coach was they had before Adam Gase, but he had like 4 or 5 losing seasons where they weren't really competitive and managed to hang in there. So that's the only thing that I guess it also depends on what do the Jets look like. Are they like a frisky 7-9, 8-8 team that just misses out on the playoffs but looks like they're trending in the right direction? Or are they a 3-13 train wreck?
Yeah. Where are you putting your money at?
But I have that site I like where it gives you the entire schedule and you can play it out. And because I've been doing these previews and I'm getting towards the end, I wanted to make sure that I didn't accidentally suggest that I thought 18 teams were going to make the playoffs. So I ran the scenarios to see what I actually think, and I have the Jets at 4-12.
Yeah, Todd Bowles was the previous coach.
That's right, Todd Bowles. He was very memorable, apparently.
Great defensive coordinator.
He was, wasn't he Arizona's defensive coordinator when Carson Palmer was their quarterback? I don't remember him having any winning seasons with the Jets, though.
I don't know. I didn't look back that far.
It's probably better for your health. Probably better for all of our Jets fans.
I had a 10-6 season.
Well, so
his first season.
Well, there you go.
Sorry, I was spelling something in. No, hang on.
But how many years was so? He was with the Jets for 4 years, 2-5-11 and 1-4-12. I mean, I still think the question is, if Gase is in that 3 to 5 wins, he's gone. But
I think the hard thing there is they brought in Joe Douglas is kind of picked by Gase to be the GM, so there may be some loyalty there to Gase.
Well, last year I was almost willing to give him a little bit of I didn't. The Jets, I'm not going to say they were good, but the second half of the season when Darnold seemed to kind of recover. The thing about Mono, it's not just that he missed a couple of games. Mono kicks your butt physically, so I would not imagine that he was like NFL game shape ready when he first came back. So I, maybe gave him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. They finished 7-9. I think they were 6-2 over the last 8 games. Kind of shows you some kind of a spark, some kind of a pickup. So I guess it really just depends on what kind of Jets. I just don't think they have a great roster.
I agree.
Yeah. Who hears that?
Nobody hears what?
The echo.
This is an excellent audio show where we've all gone to mute.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to make sure that got fixed. It was really bad there for a second. All right, so new addition to the kit.
Now you're echoing.
What's up?
Now you're echoing,
Am I?
and so am I.
Yeah, that's what I said. I could hear both of those. That's what I was saying earlier. It got kind of bad. Let's see. All right, so new additions. It's gone now. Brashad Perriman, Frank Gore, Denzel Mims, who was drafted in the second, and LaMichael Piron, who's drafted in the fourth. Both Perriman and Gore are on one-year deals. Losses and expiring contracts for the Jets. Robbie Anderson and Demaryius Thomas both left in free agency. Demaryius Thomas still a free agent. Robbie Anderson obviously went and signed with his old head coach from Temple in Carolina. The expiring contracts this year, Brashad Perriman, Frank Gore, and Josh Doxson, who I didn't even realize was on the roster still. Fantasy finishes. Sam Darnold finishes QB 27, 202.16 points again in 13 games. Le'Veon Bell, RB 21 with 149. Jamison Crowder, wide receiver 34 with 119.7 points. Brashad Perriman, wide receiver 43 with 102.1. Those were with Tampa Bay. And then Ryan Griffin, the best finishing tight end with Herndon being out pretty much the entire season. He finishes tight end 20 with 64 points. So how much of a step forward do you guys expect from Sam Darnold this year in 2020?
Well, I think he has some QB2 potential. I mean, last year, I have to look it up. I think he was QB 27, even though he missed quite a bit of time. And oh yeah, you have it on your sheet. Yeah, QB 27. So even though he missed quite a bit of time, and he had that dreadful game against the Patriots where he was seeing ghosts. I'm pretty sure that gave negative points because I have him on one of my teams, and I was thinking everything that I didn't start him. But he seemed to pick up a little bit toward the back half of the season. It's just whether that back half of the Jets season portends things to come or whether it's sort of an outlier. Brashad Perriman could be interesting. Denzel Mims could be interesting. They didn't exactly take a huge step forward with their offensive weapons. They didn't have Chris Herndon pretty much at all last year. He was suspended, came back for a game, and tore his ACL really early. I think he only had one target, didn't even get a reception. So he's kind of a weapon that they don't have. Le'Veon Bell, I think he's capable of more than what we saw last year. They worked a lot on rebuilding their offensive line, which I thought was kind of an important point. They drafted and they signed players. They signed Connor McGovern. They signed George Fant. Their first-round pick was Mekhi Becton, I believe.
Yep.
So they've been working on building up the line, which is going to be both good for Darnold and good for the running game. It'll be interesting to see. The AFC East is probably more wide open than it's been in the last 20 years, which is a good thing for them. But they don't have the greatest schedule or probably the greatest coach.
What are your thoughts, Dennis?
I'm trying to get myself to stop echoing.
You're not echoing now.
All right, I think I might have got it. I agree with I think Lev Bell is going to have a good year, and not just because I got to drive him around here a little bit. He's going to be the cog that runs that offense. A 80-catch, 900-yard season, 1,000-yard season, I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities for Bell. I'm not in on Perriman. The more I've looked at him, the less I'm in there. I think Crowder is likely to get 110-ish targets, 120-ish targets. But I feel like that they're going to be behind, but not necessarily playing catch up. They're going to be just running out the clock kind of thing. It's going to be you never like to say a team quits on a season, but given the rancor in the locker room towards this head coach, you might see a team that looks like it's saying, "Hey, let's get through these games and we'll get on to next season and see if we can get something better going." They've got some good pieces on defense. Denzel Mims I like a lot, but I think Perryman is what he is, in that I don't think we're going to see a Devontae Parker like breakout from him. Last season, Perriman had 37 of his 69 targets in the last 5 games. Prior to that, he only had 1 game over 5 targets. And I think while New York doesn't have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, I think there's a reason that Baltimore gave up on Perriman after 2 seasons. And if you look back at Perriman's quote-unquote explosion at the end of 2018 with the Browns, he was still only like wide receiver 31 over the past 4 or 5 games, somewhere in that range, 31 to 35. So it wasn't like last season where he did literally come out of nowhere. I think he was wide receiver 3 or 4 for the last 5 games. But it's tough for me to see that carrying over. I think it's going to be I've been hearing, like on Sirius and Bob Harris and Mike Dempsey talking, the Jets love Chris Herndon. They want to. I know they signed Griffin to the extension, but teams are running a lot of 12 personnel. They have tight ends that do different things. Herndon is a more athletic, speedier tight end that can work the seams, kind of in a Darren Waller type of fashion. And so I feel like there's going to definitely they're not going to have a terrific year, but there could be some fantasy gold there if your expectations aren't too high.
All right. Well, since Dennis kind of hit on all the questions there, I'll kind of hit around here and there. I do think Darnold takes a little bit of a step forward. I think he's going to have to if Adam Gase is going to have any shot on staying around. It seems like that's why they brought Gase to the Jets to begin with, was to help improve Sam Darnold. And so if he doesn't, I definitely expect Gase to be gone. But I still believe Darnold's a really good quarterback, so I expect him to take a little bit of a step forward. Matt, as Dennis was just talking about with Perriman, and I'll ask you as well, Dennis. So is Crowder the only guy that you guys trust for fantasy from the wide receiver position for the Jets?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's clearly the best. 122 targets last year, 78 receptions. He's their guy. There's just not a lot of depth or experience.
And I think he's being drafted as like wide receiver 43 right now, which is it's crazy. The draft director, old Chris Miles, popped that little nugget in the DQL group chat a little earlier today.
I mean, it's very possible for the Jets that their top 3 people in targets end up being Crowder, Bell, and Herndon in that order, and then receivers kind of slot in wherever they slot in. It's interesting, though, because they have so many vacated targets. Robbie Anderson had 96 targets last year. Demaryius Thomas, I don't think we think about him as being, a big part of it, but he had 58 targets last year. He was basically the wide receiver 3 for the Jets for most all the season. So there's opportunity for Perriman and Mims, but with this strange offseason, and I tend to agree with Dennis. I don't think anyone was thinking about Brashad Perriman at all until 2 or 3 games to the end of the season, when he kind of got an opportunity to step up for the injuries for Evans and Godwin.
Yeah, I'm interested in Crowder as well. I think the biggest thing is going to be if he can stay healthy. We've talked about it before. He was on our wide receiver list that that came out on Thursday, and that was kind of the thing we all talked about was if he can stay healthy, he's definitely going to jump up there, and he was a very viable wide receiver 2 toward the end of last season as well. So Bell bias aside, with Dennis getting to drive him around this past weekend, do you guys both think that he can be a viable high-end RB2? And do you think that the Jets bring him back in 2021?
I think that yes, he can be an RB2, especially in PPR because he does catch a lot of passes. He's healthy. He's not injured. He's not coming off any surgeries or anything like that. So he's coming into the season in good shape. And I don't think they bring him back because I do think they understand they're going to be undertaking a rebuild. They'll let LaMichael P. Ryan or some other cheap free agent come in and be the running back next year. I just don't see where financially it would make sense for them to keep him around next year.
I think the question of whether he comes back next year is tied up a little bit in whoever the coach ends up being, and a little bit in what he looks like on the field this season. I think if they saw something closer to what we saw in 2017 Le'Veon Bell, maybe they'd think about it differently. It is kind of cost prohibitive to keep him. I would lean toward him not being with the Jets next year, but you never know. But in terms of him being a high end RB2, he was RB16 in PPR last year, which if you're going by standard 12-team leagues would be top half RB2. So and that was with a pretty miserable looking Jets offense. I think the upgrades they made on their offensive line points to the fact that they realized they had some serious blocking problems. If that can be effective, that helps Bell, be able to run behind him. I don't think he has a ton of competition. We all love Dennis. I don't think he has a ton of competition. He does have ageless wonder Frank Gore back there. I would imagine P. Ryan, like a lot of rookies, is going to be on a learning curve. And we thought last year, when they brought in Ty Montgomery, that he was going to get a bunch of snaps, and it never materialized. Bilal Powell didn't get a bunch of snaps last year either. So, for as much as they talk about spreading it out and having a committee, Adam Gase gave quite a bit of work to Le'Veon Bell last year. He had 245 rushing attempts and 78 targets. I would expect something similar and maybe a bit better efficiency.
Dennis, you touched on this a little bit there a minute ago. It's given Ryan a contract extension in the offseason. Do you think Ryan Griffin or the guy this year? Herndon, they got you very high last season. You're muted.
I feel like it's not good. Now the echo's back. I don't think either one of them are going to be super relevant. There'll be times if I had to put my money on who's going to have the most tight end 2 games, I'm probably going to lean Herndon, and I'm probably going to put the over under at 4, 3, something low. It's not going to. I just don't feel like it's. I don't think it's going to be a great offense. So, as far as Bell coming back, I looked up and he has $4 million dead cap after this season. If the NFL retracts the salary cap by 25 or 30 million, like they said next year, there's going to be a lot of guys looking for work and having to take big pay cuts to stay in the league next year. So, Bell, I think it was what was it? Next year they'd be on the hook for $13.5 million if they kept him around. So that's pretty steep if the salary cap is retracting, by 25 million.
So I think probably Herndon and Griffin both have a role. Griffin, for as much as we talk about his opportunity last year, only had 41 targets and 34 receptions. So it's not like he was lighting the world on fire. Herndon was the guy they took in the 4th round, 2018. He had 39 receptions, 502 yards as a rookie, which was pretty outstanding. Coming into his 3rd year, you'd expect him to kind of be picking up. Unfortunately, a lost year last year, but I think that they like him. They drafted him for a reason, and he's going to end up being the primary tight end.
All right, so yep, there it is. Son of a gun. Matt, can you mute yourself real quick? Let's see. It's not there anymore. Interesting. I do not know what's going on. We'll continue and see what happens. I guess here we're having a little bit of audio issues today, guys, so we apologize about that. All right, so over unders now for the Jets here. Darnold QB 21, 80. Oh, I'm sorry, QB 21 over or under.
I'm gonna say slight over.
Dennis.
Coming. Sorry, I was looking for my rankings. What'd you say, QB 21? I'm going to say over.
Over. I'm going over as well. Let's see here. ADP of 174.33, QB 21. Just before him, Kirk Cousins, Drew Brees, and Cam Newton. Are you taking him over any of those three?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, neither am I. After him, Jimmy G, Justin Herbert, and Tom Brady. Are you taking any of those three over Darnold?
I'm taking Brady.
Depending on where I'm at in my QB situation, I might take Herbert.
Yeah, and we're talking redraft, right?
No, Dynasty.
Oh, in Dynasty? Probably not. I'm probably sticking with Darnold then.
I would go Herbert. That's just because I love Herbert. Then that is all. Le'Veon Bell, RB 17 in 2020, over or under?
I'm going under.
Yeah, I'm feeling under as well.
I'm going over. I don't think he's going to have quite as good a year as you guys do. ADP of 59.83, RB 23 off the board. Just ahead of him, Kareem Hunt, David Montgomery, and Todd Gurley. Are you taking him over any of those three?
I'm taking him over Montgomery, taking him over. You said Kareem Hunt?
Yeah.
Over Hunt, but probably not Gurley. In Dynasty, it's pretty close. I'm looking at my redraft rankings. I think I'd take Bell over Gurley.
I would probably take him over all three. But I love Le'Veon Bell. Can't quit you.
Yeah, I would not take him over any of those three. I'd probably take him over Hunt just because I don't know where Hunt's going to eventually be. But I like Montgomery and Gurley more, at least for this year, for sure. And I don't think Bell has much longer in him, anyways. Just after him, Melvin Gordon, Chris Carson, and James Conner. Are you taking any of those three over Bell?
Probably not, but it's a pretty tight grouping. They're not far behind him.
I'm sorry, I only recognize two players that are sitting behind him on that list. I probably wouldn't take either. I would consider Chris Carson. I still wish we knew whether or not he was healthy because I feel like he's in a more dynamic situation with a team that actually loves him. It's hard to say. Coming back from a fractured hip for a running back that happened in week 16 of the NFL season feels almost impossible. They're saying he's ready to go week 1.
Well, and Carroll does love him, and he'll lie about just about everything about Carson. Carroll will lie about. So,
yeah, I would not take him. I would take Carson and Connor over Bell. Actually, now that I think about it, Carson's just been the guy, as you were just mentioning, Matt. I just think they're going to rely on him when he comes back healthy. So I like Carson on a very run-heavy team. Denzel Mims, wide receiver 36 in 2020, over or under?
Way over.
Over.
I am going to take the over as well. ADP of 91.17, wide receiver 46 off the board. Just ahead of him, Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, and N'Keal Harry. I would take him over Harry, but that is it for me. Cooks would be a toss-up. What about you guys?
I would, I have him and Pittman ranked pretty closely in rookie drafts. I probably go Pittman. Cooks, if I'm doing a startup, I'm going to take Cooks because I expect Cooks is going to play. And I feel like while the ADP might say he's just ahead of him, I feel like I might be able to get him if I wait. And I'm getting more and more on the N'Keal Harry train. I think he may have. It may be that he may break out this year.
I think that N'Keal Harry train is going to end up next to the Penny train somewhere in the train graveyard. But I would take him over N'Keal Harry.
All right, James Crowder, wide receiver 21 in 2020, over or under?
I'm going to go over.
Yeah, I'm going to go over, but it's not going to be by a lot. I think he's going to be somewhere. He'll probably be top 28.
I'm going to go just a slight over. I want him to be right around this area. I think it's just his health, as I mentioned earlier. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, keeping him from being a really good wide receiver for fantasy this year.
He did play all 16 games last year.
Did he?
Yep.
Crowder,
games
Darnold
16.
That's what I'm thinking of. Darnold was out, though, last year. Because when Darnold came back, that's when they really had that connection in the back half of the season.
Crowder has actually played 16 games 3 out of 5 years, 15 games 1 year. Only 1 year, his last year in Washington, was he limited to 9 games.
Whatever. He's hurt all the time. That's what I know.
He might be on the injury list like Brady all the time.
Yeah, well, he doesn't produce like Brady does. That's the problem. All right, so did I already read the ADP? I think so. Wide receiver 41 off the board. Just ahead of him, John Brown, Julian Edelman, and Paris Campbell. Are you taking him over any of those three?
I'd go over Brown and Campbell.
Yeah, I'd go over Brown. Campbell is one of those, what kind of mood am I in? What's my team look like? Because he's an Ohio State guy, and I always can seem to find room for Ohio State guys on my team. I definitely take him over Brown, but not Edelman.
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely take him over Brown. Campbell would be a toss-up. I would say probably 9 times out of 10 Campbell's going to end up on my team just because, as you mentioned, he is a former Buckeye. Just after him, Sammy Watkins, James Washington, and Emmanuel Sanders. I would not take any of those 3 over him. What about you guys?
Yeah, no, I think I'm going Crowder there. If Watkins could ever get any type of consistency, man, he's good for that. Man, that one game a year, the dude is a fucking baller. But shoot, it wouldn't surprise me if.
What are you talking about? He was incredibly consistent last year. He's on a 15-game no touchdown.
No shit. Washington, I can see. He led I believe he led the Steelers in yards last year, receiving yardage. Yeah. So I can see a scenario where Washington outscores him, being a downfield threat if Ben's arm is healthy. With Juju in the slot and Deontay Johnson in the intermediate, there's a possibility that a chemistry develops between Ben and Washington. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I feel like as much as I want to believe that Sanders is going to keep holding on, his injuries are just the type, with the Achilles and stuff. I feel like he's got to. I'd rather be out too early on him breaking down again than too late.
All right, Brashad Perriman, wide receiver 33 in 2020, over or under?
Way over.
Yep, over.
Same here. ADP of 170.33. Wide receiver 71 off the board. Just ahead of him, Devin Duvernay, KJ Hamler, and Antonio Brown. Are you taking him over any of those 3?
I'm taking him over Antonio Brown.
Can Antonio Brown make a decision? Like one day he says he's retiring, he's done with the NFL. The next day he asked if they could clear up his discipline issues so he'd be eligible to sign with the team.
No, he's a drop. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking him over Antonio Brown. I think when you're in that range where you're looking at Brashad Perriman, it would be hard to take him over rookies that you think might have more promise?
The only thing for me is I'm getting more and more as I look at people who are doing analytics and doing it well. Later round wide receivers, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, as you get later, they don't produce like we have this illusion that they do. And so I look at it and it's Perriman is not a great NFL receiver. He's proven. We know he can do it. And if I have to bet whether Devin Duvernay on Baltimore is going to be a startable wide receiver at any point over the next 2 years versus Brashad Perriman, I'm probably going to choose Perriman. But if my team is pretty well set, I've got decent depth, then I'm probably going to go with the rookies.
Well, that's the thing. I was just looking at Baltimore. Duvernay had an incredible year last year for Texas, 103 receptions, 1,300 yards. But when you looked at Baltimore last year, for as good as their offense was going, I mean, Andrews led them with 64 receptions. Hollywood Brown only had 46 catches. It's not exactly a huge and robust figure. Then Nick Boyle, their backup tight end, had 31 catches. Hayden Hurst, their other backup tight end, had 30 catches. And then they had Snead with 31. It's just hard to imagine they're going to have a lot of wide receiver volume, period.
Jackson has to take a step with his passing. He was super efficient last year. He had 36 touchdowns on 460 pass attempts. That's very, very efficient. If he can take that next step, if he drops from what do you have 1,300 yards rushing, 1,200 yards,
1,200.
If he drops down to 800, 750, but he replaces that with additional passing and passing efficiency, then that's good for the wide receivers. I think in the end, they probably don't want Jackson running that much, but man, he's good at it. And so if he can up that passing game, Hollywood Brown should benefit pretty well. I think it'll be a team where there's going to be one wide receiver beneficiary to compete with Andrews. And right now the money has to be on Brown.
All right, so just after him, Golden Tate, Allen Lazard, and Alshon Jeffrey. Are you taking any of those three over Perriman?
I'm probably taking I'm definitely taking Tate. I have a soft spot for Alshon Jeffrey. And so if I keep hearing reports that he's looking good and, the difference between Perriman and Jeffrey is when he's healthy, Jeffrey is starting and getting targets. Perriman has to wait for everybody else to not be healthy. This is going to be the year where Perriman gets the opportunity to start again and be the guy, but I'm not banking on it. And I just don't know what to expect from the wide receiver 2 in Green Bay. But given the state of Green Bay's offense versus New York's offense, I'd probably go Lazard.
What about you, Matt?
I would definitely take Golden Tate, but that's it for me.
I would take Tate and Lazard. I'm kind of big on Lazard this year. I don't think it's going to be MVS that steps forward, and I don't know. I don't think Perriman is really going to do much. So I think you're just kind of taking a shot in the dark at two possible or two wide receiver 2s on their teams to really do much. So I'm going to take Lazard with an offense I think is going to be a little bit more pass heavy. Chris Herndon,
Jeffrey League winner.
Maybe for you at least, not for me. Chris Herndon, tight end 16 in 2020, over or under? I will take the under. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be top 10, but somewhere between 10 and 15. That feels about right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about right. I'm going to go slight over, like Tight end 17, 18.
All right, ADP of 180, tight end 23 off the board. Just ahead of him, Cole Kmet, Jay Sternberger, and Blake Jarwin. Would you take him over any of those three?
I'd take him over Kmet.
Yeah, I definitely take him over Kmet. I'm not sold on Sternberger. I want to be. I feel like the talent is there, but also Rodgers not really using the tight end very efficiently is also a real thing. Jarwin, as much as I want to, as much as I was in on him earlier in the season, I've cooled off some since they drafted CD Lamb. Well, there's going to be a lot of targets to go around in Dallas. I have some concerns about efficiency. I think Sternberger will still probably, or not Sternberger, Jarwin will still probably be in that 75 target range. If this was last year, I'd be Herndon all day. But I think right now I'd probably take Jarwin over him if push comes to shove, because that's probably where I'd be drafting my tight end too. And I feel more comfortable with Jarwin as my tight end too versus Sternberger, versus Herndon.
Yeah, I would. I'd take him over Jarwin and Kmet for sure. Sternberger would be a toss-up. I'm big on Sternberger. I think he's going to start to break out there in Green Bay. I really liked him coming out the last year anyways. Just behind him, O.J. Howard, Eric Ebron, and I'm pretty sure that's Dawson Knox, not Dawson No. Would you take any of those three over Herndon?
I really love Dawson Knox, but I just don't know if the volume's going to be there. So that would be kind of a toss-up for me, but that's the only one that would be close.
Yeah, I can make the case for taking O.J. Howard based on what we believe the talent is, and if we're drafting a startup, the prospect of him being your third or fourth tight end that you're going to be playing next year, the year after, I think the case can be made for that. Ebron. So noted Ebron hater here, and hopefully the guys in this draft. So 8 of the 12 guys from my Scott Fishbowl draft added a few more guys, and we're doing a Scott Fishbowl scoring redraft league. We're drafting right now. We're in the 12th round. The only thing we couldn't do on Sleeper was the extra half a point per first down for the tight end. So we're coming up. We are at pick 12-8. I had the 101, so I pick in 5 picks, and I have yet to take a tight end. But I am kind of I'm looking at Eric Ebron as possibly. I'm looking. I was hoping Fant would continue to fall, but he went a couple picks ago. But I think I might double tap Jonnu Smith and Eric Ebron at the turn.
Nice. I would definitely do Jonnu Smith, but definitely not. I would definitely take Jonnu Smith first, and then if you can get Ebron later, do that. But Jonnu Smith would be the guy that I'd go for. All right, so I was going to bring up Ryan Griffin, but he doesn't even have an ADP because he's not getting drafted, so I figured we could just skip on. I just wanted to throw that in there so we could throw it out there that apparently everybody is in on Herndon being the guy for the Jets. So the Miami Dolphins, they finished 5-11 last year. Can Fitzmagic keep all these guys fantasy relevant if we're assuming he's going to start most of the season?
What was the question? I was reading something.
Yeah, so I mean, I like the receivers with Fitzmagic, and I think he probably will start. He'll start for sure, probably at the beginning. I think he could end up starting most, if not all, the season. I still don't think the Dolphins are really looking at 2020 as their year. I think they're looking a little bit beyond. They seem to have good faith and good energy playing with their new coaching staff, and they've been building things. I liked the way they finished last year. I thought they were kind of fun to watch. So, I like his potential.
The question, Dennis, was: do we think that Fitzmagic can keep all of those guys fantasy relevant?
Well, for the games he's not throwing 5 interceptions, yes. I like Fitzmagic. I think, well, when I look at the Dolphins offense, they're going to be balanced this year. They brought in Jordan Howard. They brought in Matt Breida. And say what you want about those two guys, they're better than the running backs they had last year, except for Kenyon Drake, which they didn't use quite right either until he went to Arizona. So they're going to be pounding the ball with Jordan Howard and throwing the ball to Matt Breida. You've got Gesicki at tight end. And then you've got Devontae Parker and Preston Williams on the outside with Alan Hearns and Albert Wilson as your 3 and your 4. How many do they have to keep happy? You know, it's Gesicki, Williams, and Parker. Everybody else, when it comes to receiving threat, is not really going to be relevant. Breida maybe from the running back position as a pass-catching running back. But from the actual receiving position, it's those 3 guys. And I think Fitzpatrick has shown over the course of his career that he can support 3 receivers at a fairly high level.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, especially with Preston Williams, who we'll talk about here in a minute, how much he can bounce back with Fitzmagic. So the new additions, Adam Shaheen, this trade just happened a couple days ago, traded for a 2021 7th, I believe. I heard someone say it was the 5th. I could have swore I saw 7th.
It was a conditional 6th round.
So it was in between the two that I had heard. So thank you for that, Matt. Matt Breida was traded for a 5th-round pick during the draft. Jordan Howard signed a 2-year deal. And then, of course, Tua Tagovailoa was drafted in the 1st round. And interesting guy for me, Malcolm Perry, drafted in the 7th round out of Navy. I don't know if he'll really do much fantasy-wise. I imagine he's going to be more of a like a kick returner, punt returner kind of guy, but he's an explosive guy. He's a guy that I was happy to see got a NFL contract. The losses and expiring contracts. This was interesting to me. No real losses in free agency in 2020 for the Miami Dolphins. And then expiring contracts, Fitzpatrick, Matt Breida, and Adam Shaheen will all be expiring at the end of the season. Fantasy finishes, Fitzpatrick, QB 16 with 254.46 points. Jordan Howard, RB 44 with 111.4. That was with Philadelphia. Matt Breida, RB 46 with 103.3 with San Francisco. Devontae Parker, wide receiver 11 with 246.2 points. Preston Williams, wide receiver 77 with 90.8 points, but did only play in 8 games. And then Mike Gesicki, tight end 12 with 136 points. So over under on the games that Ryan Fitzpatrick starts this year being 12.
I'm going to say slight over.
They have a week 11 or week 12 bye, don't they?
Who's hot, Jared? I need you to specify. We need to know.
Let me look at their bye situation.
I think their bye is pretty late in the season. And so I think if Fitzpatrick is playing them into the playoffs, he's going to keep starting. If it's faltering and Tua is healthy, then I could see them mixing it up and getting to a playing time while they get him prepped to actually start to play whole games. So, it comes down to, do I believe they're going to contend for the playoffs? They should be above the Jets. Then New England. I don't feel they're going to be a playoff contender after week 8. So I'm going to take the under.
What about you, Fox?
I said slight over, and Dennis is right. They have a week 11 bye.
All right, so I will go week 11 bye. So I said 12, right? Is that what I put? 12 games. So
yeah, 12 games.
I'm going to go under then. I think at worst, week 11 comes. They're probably not going to be in it. So I'm going to take the under. I think Tua starts there in week 12. I just messed up all my stuff here. Okay, so who do you guys trust more for this season? Jordan Howard or Matt Breida?
Howard.
Yeah, I trust Howard more too. Breida's another guy that seems to have trouble staying on the field, just staying off the injury report.
All right, let's see here. Believe or not believe in Parker and what Parker showed us last year?
I mean, believe in what sense? I think he's still there.
Be more of what we saw last year or the year before?
I think it'll be closer to what we saw last year than the first 4 years of his career where he was basically non-existent. But it will be interesting to see what happens, if Williams is healthy. We thought Gesicki was taking a step up. If they actually have a running game, I think the easy thing to forget is the Dolphins' leading rusher last year was Ryan Fitzpatrick with 243 yards. So, if they have a more balanced offense and they have some other options, Parker may not get peppered with as many targets.
Yeah, I think Parker is going to be more like the first half of last year when Williams was healthy. So he's going to be the second wide receiver. Williams will be the wide receiver 1. Parker will be the wide receiver 2. Is there going to be a huge difference in their targets? Probably not. I think if both stay healthy all season, you're probably looking at 110, 120 targets for Williams, 90 to 100 targets for Parker, and 90 targets for Gesicki. I won't be the least bit surprised if Jordan Howard has 275 to 300 carries.
All right. What are we hoping for from Preston Williams this season? It being him coming off a not necessarily late season, but mid-season ACL tear. There's a chance, obviously, hopefully, that he plays. What are you guys expecting from him in the 2020 season?
I mean, he had 60 targets and 32 receptions in 8 games, which was pretty impressive. He seemed to have a nice chemistry going there. If he can come back and be healthy, I think Dennis is right. He has potential to be their wide receiver 1 because he was tracking for 120 targets. That's where Parker ended up at 128. I like his potential a lot, and that was really the last couple of games before he got hurt. Just really kind of taken off. I think it was the game he tore his ACL. He was the one that he caught 6 for 72 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think they'll ease him into it at the beginning of the season. They're, with this truncated off season, they're going to hopefully play it smart. And if, Flores, who seems to be the most similar in approach to Bill Belichick, or at least the most successful in instituting the approach of Bill Belichick so far. I think that they'll take it kind of easy and cautious with Williams, but by mid-season, I expect he'll be full go and just tearing it up as the unquestioned number 1.
So Mike Gesicki has kind of been trending forward here every season. Do we expect him to continue moving up, or do you guys expect him to kind of stick at where he's been at, which is that bottom tier tight end 1 range?
That's a good goddamn question, man.
Thanks.
I think Dennis said he thought with around 90 targets for Gesicki. He had 89 last year. I just looked up the splits for you, Dennis. So in the first 8 games that Parker and Williams played together, Williams had 60 targets. Parker had 52. So they were relatively even. I think Gesicki probably is at least around where he was. He seemed to come up. I think he's kind of in that high-end tight end 2, fringe tight end 1 territory. It kind of depends when you're in that range a little bit on touchdowns.
So for me, Gesicki, year 3, it's time to put together the consistency part of it. We know he's super athletic. We know he's good in the open field. They brought in Shaheen, they're going to put Shaheen on the end of the line, which should free Gesicki up more to be a receiver. Can Gesicki convert from being a big athlete playing tight end to being a true receiving tight end in year 3? The jury's out, but I think we're gonna get there. I think he'll have a pretty good. I think he's going to have a pretty good season. So, I think he's going to be in the back end tight end 1 competition pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm actually kind of excited to see him play this year. He was one of those guys. I think a lot of us all 3 of us were lucky enough to be in the Scott Fish Bowl this year. He seemed to be that guy that a lot of people were trying to attack, kind of in that second, like waiting. If you waited on tight end, that guy that everybody wanted to attack because they thought he would take a step forward this year. All right, so over unders. Ryan Fitzpatrick, again, assuming he plays however many games. I know I went under, so 11 games. But QB 17, I will take the over. What about you guys?
I'm going to go with the over as well, just because I don't think he gets a whole season.
Over for me as well.
All right, ADP of 242, QB 37 off the board. Just ahead of him, there's literally no other real quarterbacks being drafted behind him. Just ahead of him, Tyrod Taylor, Jared Stidham, and Phillip Rivers. I would not take any of them over Fitz because I kind of feel like all 3 of those guys are probably in the same boat as Tyrod, and I know for sure Tyrod's likely the starter. I guess maybe.
Wait. Yeah, isn't that those 3 guys are going ahead of Fitzmagic? So.
Oh yeah. So am I taking him over any of those 3?
Are you taking him over any of those 3?
I would take him over Tyrod and Stidham, not Rivers. I apologize. What about you guys?
Yeah, that's probably the same for me because I think he has more upside in his limited starting time as a seat warmer than Tyrod Taylor does, and Stidham. We don't know if he's ever going to play because Cam Newton's not incredibly old. So if Cam Newton works out, you could see them making a more long-term commitment. And then, is Stidham kind of the career backup?
There's good money to be made as a career backup. So I just ask Chase Daniel.
I'm not disparaging it as a lifestyle. I'm just saying I'm not sure I'm spending my fantasy draft capital on that.
If I could have a lifestyle brand, career NFL backup quarterback would be it. I would take Rivers. I think him and Fitzmagic have roughly the same amount of time left. As I say that out loud, do I like T.Y. Hilton and Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell more than I like Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and Albert Wilson? Yeah, I don't know. Preston Williams might sway it for me.
Good, but he's not better than the whole group.
Well, the Colts also have a better running game and a better offensive line, so I think they're going to be a better, more efficient offense.
Yeah, so I like Rivers. He's been a consistent quarterback throughout his career, and he's going to be playing with one of the best offensive lines he's ever had. So. I expect Rivers to have a pretty good season.
All right. Tua Tagovailoa, QB 27 in 2020. Over or under?
Over.
I will go over as well. ADP of 122.83. He is QB 11 off the board. Just before him, Baker, Burrow, and Josh Allen. Would you take him over any of those 3, Dennis?
Well, I had Tua as my QB1 in the rookie class, and so I feel like I got to take him over Burrow. At that range, I'm not taking a starting quarterback, probably a quarterback. Boy, I don't think it does, looking at the numbers, it doesn't feel like Tua should be around Baker. Baker's in the starter. So I think I'm going to take Baker. I'm going to take probably Baker and Tua over Burrow and Allen.
Yeah, I mean that's the tough thing about where he's going QB11 in Dynasty. You're taking him for the long haul, which I get, but in that range, you're thinking about a starting option. So I would take him over Burrow too because I had him ranked higher, but I'm not taking him over the other two.
Oh, man, this is hard for me. I probably wouldn't take him over any of them. I think Burrow is going to be really good. Obviously, I love Baker, so I can't take him over Baker. And then Josh Allen, I think just with his rushing upside, I do think that he is eventually – we talked about him obviously last Monday with the Patriots and the Bills. I think he's going to continue to progress forward, and his rushing upside does a little bit more for me than Tua. So just after him, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, and Daniel Jones. Are you taking any of those three over Tua, Matt?
I probably will take Daniel Jones. I think he's already set. He showed some stuff. I like his supporting cast. Tua seems kind of like a long-term play to me, and given that Ryan and Rodgers are older, and Rodgers in particular seems to be in a precarious state where the offensive is shifting away from passing, and he's got an potential heir apparent behind him. I think I would bet on Tua in the future. That's the guy the Dolphins seemingly were going for 2 years that they got. I think they're going to do everything to try to help make him a success.
Yeah. Am I winning now, or am I building a team for next year or 2 years is really what it comes down to. I'd probably take him over Rodgers either way. I do feel like Green Bay is moving towards a more run-oriented offense. Jones, I go back and forth with. He was a turnover machine last year. Does that sort of portend what his future is going to look like, or is he going to be able to work his way out of that? Ryan, at 34 years old, I think he's still got 3 or 4 more years, and that's a high-volume offense. So I'm probably taking Ryan over Tua to win now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Ryan and Jones, I'm for sure taking over Tua. Rodgers is kind of the coin flip for me. As everybody knows, I haven't been that big on Tua, so I'd probably still take him over Rodgers because I think the longevity is there for Tua, but that would actually kind of be a hard one for me just because I'm just not as sold that Tua is going to be quite as good a pro as some others are. Jordan Howard, RB22 in 2020. I am going to go under. What about you guys?
I'm going to go over.
I think that's a great number. Like I said, I'm not going to be surprised if he gets 275 carries. At 4 yards a pop, that's going to put him at 1,100 yards, give or take. And he's at 5'11" and 230 pounds. He's the goal line back. So I feel like he's in for, a 1,000 or 1,100 yard season with 7 or 8 touchdowns. So I'm definitely taking the under, because he's not going to be in there for 3 downs, and I don't think he's going to get the volume of, Chubb or Henry. I put him probably just outside the top 15.
All right. ADP of 121.5, RB41 off the board, just ahead of him. Antonio Gibson, Kerryon Johnson, and A.J. Dillon. Are you taking him over any of those 3?
Probably take him over all those 3.
Yeah, so you want me to take a running back that has 33 career college carries over a running back that's carried the ball 250 times a season for the past 3 years. I'm going to definitely taking Howard over Gibson. Right now, I feel like Howard's role is secure for the next couple of years. Carry-on's role is up in the air, and A.J. Dillon is just a big back with limited vision and no power. So I'm not worried about A.J. Dillon impacting Aaron Jones.
I would take him over all three as well. I think that's actually kind of easy for me. I was actually kind of surprised when I saw Carry-On and Gibson were both going ahead of Howard. Just after him, Damian Williams, Phillip Lindsay, and James White. Are you taking any of those three over Howard?
I'm
not taking Williams.
No. I would take RB2 in fantasy, RB1 in my heart, Phillip Lindsay over Howard. But Williams probably will start the year and have a decent start to 2020, but I don't think he's the long-term guy there. So I think Lindsay's the only one I would take over him.
I mean, the case can be made for James White to, catching 75 balls. But I like Howard's role Howard doesn't have competition for his role. Bill Belichick really has no qualms about putting Rex Burkhead in the James White role if he feels like it. And so with that being said, I'm taking Howard. Lindsey's a coin flip. I like Lindsey's talent. I've warmed up to him. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in Denver. So Lindsey would be a coin flip.
Lindsey would be the only one that's close for me. And I would still only probably lean Howard just because I think he's going to be the guy. And that hurts my heart to say because I do love Phillip Lindsay as well. But I think I'd lean Howard there just because I think he's going to get a majority of the workload there for Miami. Matt Breida, RB30 in 2020, over or under? I will go slight over. What about you guys?
I'll go over as well.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. I think he can flirt with that RB3, but I think he's gonna be somewhere in that, 31 to 40 range.
All right, ADP of 129, RB30 off the board. Just ahead of him, James White, Phillip Lindsay, and Damian Williams. Would you take him over any of those three?
I'd take him over Williams.
Ditto.
Yeah, I think same here. White maybe, just because I just don't like to trust. After what Michelle did to me last year, I don't want to trust in any new.
He just feels like he consummately ends up as an RB2, though.
Yeah, I know, but I just, I want to avoid New England at all costs if possible after what happened to me with the Sony Michel hype last year. So it would be a coin flip. I'd probably take White more often than Breida, but I think that Lindsay is for sure way above it. I wouldn't even think about. Just behind him, Anthony McFarland, Tony Pollard, and Darrington Evans. Would you take any of those three over Breida?
I would not.
Me either. I can see the case being made for Pollard or Evans to be more involved in the pass catching on their teams, but we're only a season removed from Zeke catching 90 balls or something like that, or having 90 targets, and so as much as I'd like to see, Pollard come on and be relevant, I don't think this is going to be the year. And Evans, he could be. It's possible, but I know right now in my heart that Breida is that pass catching back. That's what they brought him in to do. Now, I also feel pretty confident in my heart that after about 6 games, Breida is going to be missing practices with injuries because that's sort of how he rolls. But he typically shows up in the games and produces even when he's dinged up. So I like Breida.
So, side note, after Breida was traded to Miami, a Dolphins fan in one of my leagues traded me David Montgomery for Breida straight up.
Well, good for you. That was a home run part.
I mean, Breida could be good in Miami, but I felt like that that seemed like a no-brainer.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. For me, I would take Evans. I've kind of been big on Darrington Evans being the passing back there for Tennessee. I don't know how much they're going to get it, but I've talked about I was made a mockery of on my own show when I had Derrick Henry as low as I did in the running back ranks. I think he's going to take a little bit of a step back. I really like Evans. I think he's going to have a pretty good year there for Tennessee. So I trust in him long term as well. Breida going to be a free agent. I don't know if he'll be back in Miami or where he goes after this year. So give me a guy like Evans moving forward. Devontae Parker, wide receiver 18 in 2020, over or under?
I'm going over.
I think we need to really quickly pull up our wide receiver ranks. I feel like that's super close to where I am.
But weren't those rankings we were doing redraft though?
No, are they? Yeah,
that's what he's asking. 20
over unders for this year, just this year.
Well, okay, because I was saying I asked a question if it was redraft or dynasty earlier, and you all said
that's for where you take the people.
Yeah. We mix all the rules up here. All right. I'm gonna go over as well. I'm not as I've mentioned it before. I'm not a big believer in Parker, and I think I'm hoping Williams takes a step forward as Dennis had me fall in love with him last year when he became a Dolphin as well. So
I'm also going over because I just realized I ranked him 25th. We already unveiled that. If I would have listened to Thursday's show.
All right, so where was I at? ADP of 63.67. He is wide receiver 30 off the board. Just ahead of him, Jalen Reagor, Tyler Lockett, and Robert Woods. I would not take him over any of those three. Would you guys?
I would not either. I like all those guys better.
I think I'd take him over Reagor. I mean, you just don't know. He's a rookie wide receiver coming in with no training camp.
That might be time to get Ray on.
He's going to be – I get it. He's going to be good. But he's also – he's starting the season as the third option behind Ertz and Goddard already. And then it's like, well, is he going to be the top wide receiver option with the guys they have there? It's likely. But, Sanders is going to catch a bunch of passes. It's – I feel like Parker has a more secure role.
I'll give you he has a more secure role, but give me Reagor every day, all day, and twice on Sundays for me. Let's see here. Just after him, oh man, why do I always put Sam? I'm pretty sure it's Deebo Samuel. Tyler Boyd or Justin Jefferson. Would you take any of those three over Devontae Parker?
I mean, it's probably Curtis Samuel in that range because Deebo was going top 25.
I feel like it's Deebo, but I could be wrong.
Then
Curtis going that high though. Curtis Samuel, there's no way Samuel's going that high. That's up there with Tyler Boyd and Justin Jefferson. It's an ADP of 67. Wide receiver.
I know, but they're going around wide receiver 30. I think Deebo Samuel was going around wide receiver 22, 21. If it's Deebo Samuel, I'm taking him over Parker all day. If it's Curtis Samuel, but I would probably take Boyd. I don't know about Justin Jefferson. I probably would still take Parker.
Since you made me look, I don't know if you can see that or not. Deebo Samuel. He's on there somewhere.
That's got to be his Liz Frank injury dropping him.
Probably. Yeah, he's right now 30 wide receiver 31 off the board.
Yeah, I'd be taking Deebo and Boyd over Parker, but I'm going to wait on Jefferson, especially since he's quarantined with the COVID.
Now that means he's out for 2 years, right? I think that's what we discussed earlier.
Yeah. Well, that and he's in an offense that only throws the ball like 5 times a game.
I would do Deebo and Boyd as well. I'd probably take Jefferson. I like him. I think he's going to be a stud in the NFL. I'm just not sold on Devontae Parker's 5.5-year breakout. So give me the young guys, and I'm gonna ride with them, ride till I die. Preston Williams, wide receiver 29 in 2020. I am going to go under, even though that is not in my ranks for him to go under. What about you guys?
I'm going to go over.
I'm going under.
I like it. I like it. All right, ADP of 114.67. He is the 53rd wide receiver off the board. Just ahead of him, Brian Edwards, Mike Williams, and A.J. Green. Are you taking him over any of those three?
Taking him over all three.
Yeah, I'm grabbing him over all three.
I would too. I think Edwards is the one that I'm hesitating on because I really like Brian Edwards there. But I
remember that he's wedded to Derek Carr or Marcus Mariota, and you change him.
I think they're going to draft. They're going to end up sucking so bad they're going to get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields next year. And Brian Edwards is going to be an absolute stud. No, I think I would go Williams just because he's already proven at the NFL level what he could do. And I do think Tua is a step up from Fitzpatrick. So getting Tua throwing him the ball, at least when he's healthy, is going to help him out even more. So I would go him, but Edwards would be the only one I might hesitate on. I'm assuming this is probably Marvin Jones. Anthony Miller and Sterling Shepard are all going after him. I really need to start putting first and last names. It is Marvin Jones. Would you take him over? I'm sorry, would you take any of those three over Williams?
I would not.
Neither would I. Though I do like Marvin Jones. I just, I think Williams is going to be good this year.
Sterling Shepard all day, every day. It's got to be healthy eventually. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't take Sterling Shepard over. I just wanted to get Matt's reaction right there.
Sterling Shepard's bus is somewhere behind or underneath Rashad Penny's bus and the other bus that Dennis picked up.
No, it's going to be good this year. I have faith in it. But no, I would not take it.
Sterling Shepard's bus is somewhere with Jimmy Hoffa underneath MetLife Stadium.
That's messed up. It's messed up, man. Jimmy Hoffa. All right. Mike Gesicki, tight end 10 in the 2020 season, over or under? I'm going under. What about you guys?
I think it's going to be just slightly over. I like him to be a back-end tight end one, but I'm thinking way back.
Yeah, I'm going to go over too. I like him at tight end 13-14 range.
Ye of little faith, both of you, and Mike Gesicki, the new tight end 5 on the 2020 season. ADP of 109.5. He is tight end 12 off of the board. Just ahead of him, Goddard, Higbee, and Fant. Would you take him over any of those three, Matt?
I would take him over Higbee. I think I really like the way Higbee ended last year. He might have a good 2020, but I just think Gesicki probably a better talent, better situation.
Yeah, I'd take him over Higbee. Scott Connor at Charles Chill on Twitter put out a nice tweet on Higbee and Gerald Everett and their usage over their career. And it was pretty stark on how Higbee doesn't get quite the usage that those few games at the end of last season want us to believe he gets. So, when it comes to like targets per snap, receptions, and it was really, I think I'm going to, I've cooled substantially on Tyler Higbee. But is Zach Ertz ever going to retire, get moved? Is he going to, are they eventually going to not sign him to an extension? Jesus Christ, he's just killing Goddard. It just
gone after this year, but
what's that?
I said I think he'll be gone after this year. Ertz,
man, I don't know. They seem to. I think they want him to retire.
They fundamentally have 0 wide receivers, right. So they need 2 tight ends.
Right. So I think I lean Gesicki just because I feel like even though Philadelphia throws to the tight end a lot, I feel like the dedicated volume is there. It's not going to be split. Fant and Gesicki are a coin flip for me. Kind of depends on my mood, what my team looks like.
Yeah, I would take him over Higbee for sure. And then, I mean, if I'm going to stick with the tight end 5 narrative, I need to take him over all 3. Fant would be it would be a coin flip really for me. It just depends. The only reason I think I would is, if I'm just being honest, he's getting drafted so much later than all 3 of those guys. So he's a guy I can get much later, and I still, as I said, I think he's going to be a top top 10 tight end this year and moving forward. So I would take that value every day of the week. Just behind him, Austin Hooper, Hayden Hurst, and Irv Smith. I would not take any of those three over him. I imagine you guys will take at least one of those guys over him. Who would you take?
I wouldn't take any of them over him either.
I think I might take Irv.
Interesting. I thought one of you would go Hurst for sure, just with him to Atlanta.
I like Hurst, but Irv is just so young, and he's look good. He produced in college. He produced when he had the opportunity last year. At that range, I probably have another tight end already, and so I can afford to take a younger guy. I don't think Irv is that much younger than Gesicki, but for diversification, I'll go Irv.
All right, well, that does it for our very audio messed up edition here of the AFC East. We apologize. I see a lot of you guys stuck with us for most of it, so we do appreciate that.
Adam Gase engineered the audio for this podcast, so please send your complaints to the New York Jets headquarters.
I think that had to happen. First day back from vacation, Dennis is dragging ass. I'm hating life with coming back from vacation. Matt's over there, looks like about to get a whole bunch of rain from the phone alert I just got because my phone still thinks I'm in Colorado for some reason. So this is just a wonderful Monday, but hopefully we'll have everything fixed Thursday when we get back. Again, thank you guys so much for listening to us today, and we will see you guys again on Thursday with the rest of I think we're doing the rest of our wide receiver ranks. I don't even remember anymore.